with your application, if you notice it, the heading of this is not this one. So we don't know what it is. This heading is not this heading. There is inconsistency in the heading. So what the case
There's a problem.
Needs to speak for itself. This one doesn't.
It is you have a problem.
There's a technical problem. Which
You have
you
a
need to listen
problem.
to.
If you look at the body here, and you look here, there are different things.
This one is a forgery.
That's the way Fazul does his
This is a forgery.
Council, this is not a forgery because of this.
Can we?
No, what I'm saying.
No. I hope you don't mind me separating them. I want to show you what it is.
Hi, John.
Hello.
Pole sana tena. Pole sana mambo yote.
That's the order. This is an affidavit. This is the application. The application in the statement of court, miscellaneous number this, Republic through this, against so and so and so and so. The affidavit is called Republic of Kenya affidavit.
Yes. Which was done.
I am telling. No, that's okay. I'm saying this affidavit is not in support of this application. This application is not supported by this affidavit. This order is not related with this application. Ngoja, I want you to see it is simple using your eyes only.
So are they faking this? Have you faked this?
Have you faked it? Can you see what I'm saying? The heading must be consistent.
Is it the format?
It is not a format. It's not a simple thing.
I know.
This is not a simple thing. The heading must always be the same so that you can say for sure this document relates with the application that has been made. Your affidavit has no heading.
But you see, Council.
It is called the title
What I'm saying,
yes.
It was taken. They have there's a
It
commission.
doesn't matter.
The person who commissioned that.
It doesn't matter
It's
about
not
the
much to do commission.
What I'm saying is this affidavit does not relate with this application. Look at this. The application is specifically saying that it has been made by the DCI. I don't know what that is. Kenya Revenue Authority Police Unit, who is the applicant. African Center for Open Governance, first respondent. Gladwell Otieno, second respondent, expert in not so motion. All right. This affidavit doesn't say what is it related to.
What I'm saying, whoever commission is not the chief magistrate.
No, my point is it's not the commissioning I'm talking about. I'm saying it's like me.
Even this affidavit does not seem to relate to AfriCog or Gladwell.
Precisely.
This relates to a blanket affidavit you have made that you use. There's nothing here that says it's about AfriCog. Any affidavit you make says, I have been investigating an offense to faith taxes related to somebody. Yes. You always have to put that in affidavit.
Or the differences are being met.
Have you served this application?
No. It's expired.
It's the one that I want to serve.
No, it's okay. Let me have this. This is the application. Now, what I'm asking we do, so that this is the notice of motion which we have.
Yes.
This is the application. Where's the order? John, you had it.
No, let me put the case to him.
Just listen.
Hello.
Listen to me. Instructions from
listen to me.
Yes.
The document that gives you authority to be here is this order.
Yes.
Now, the name of the farm, the name of Gladwell or Otieno is not here. It does not exist.
No,
and Otieno,
order. No, sorry.
Gladwell Otieno has the right to reject this document. It does not refer to her at all. Where do you find the name?
And it is therefore
Is
rejected.
Gladwell Otieno there?
No.
No, is the name of the farm here?
You see,
you
can't pick an order alone.
No, there's so much reading in between. It's not this, it's that.
Don't keep it, please. Don't keep it. You have the documents. Don't take them. Don't take them, please. Mr. Ombati, don't do that. Nyambati or Obati. Do not do this, please. If you want to do this thing properly, do it properly. Do not force yourself. Okay? This is on live television. Please. Are you talking to him? No. Can I talk to? No. What's the problem? Hold on. We are consulting as well. You consult the people.
Now you can make calls now.
Please make a call now. Make a call. Do not do that. This is supposed to be law in this country.
Well, there you have it, the proceedings here at the AFRICOG offices here in Lavington. Just some controversies are going on. The lawyers here, Haron Dubi, John Hamino and the others who are acting on behalf of the civil society and AFRICOG specifically here, just questioning the order that the police and the team from the Kenya Revenue Authority came with. So that is what they have been questioning. They have been saying that it is a blanket order which is not in any way mentioning or touching on AFRICOG or on its executive director Gladwell Otieno. So that is what the deliberations were about, and the officer just making some calls and getting some directions probably on how to proceed forward. And there they are, just going to have some deliberations. So what was happening here is that we had been informed that there was going to be a raid being conducted at the AFRICOG offices, and we arrived here and we found the group of civil society gathered outside here, and some 2 vans here full of officers as well, also just next to the AFRICOG offices here in Lavington, next to the Mudangari police station where the AFRICOG offices are. And the members of the civil society have been questioning the motive of the tax audit which the police officers say they have come to conduct here at the AFRICOG offices. Gladwell Otieno earlier on complaining that this had not been done properly. She was saying that she had not, that this was illegal, that the officers were supposed to have secured an appointment and made this properly so that they come here and do it properly and not in the manner that it is being conducted at the moment. We will try to get an interview with some of the leaders here anytime from now. Just to find out what exactly is happening. Remember, the civil society has been feeling that it has been under attack, especially from the government. The NGO Coordination Board has been saying that there has been a number of allegations against them, especially on issues of tax and operating several banks' accounts and not filing their returns properly. So these are some of the issues that the NGO Coordination Board has been dealing with. And
it's not NGO Coordination Board. There's nothing about Africa.
Well, we'll just try to get a reaction here from Maina Kiai on what exactly is happening. What is going on here?
We don't know. AFRICOG is not registered under NGO Coordination Board because it's not registered under that framework. It's registered as a company limited by guarantee, which is a proper and legitimate legal way to do things. Now, here we come, we get a call this morning saying that there are KRA people here. They've come with 3 vans with police. To do what, we ask? So we come. And they say they've got a search warrant, which does not look to be a search warrant because the order does not specify AFRICOG. The order does not specify what they're coming to do. It looks like a blanket thing. And the forms are suspect. So the front page, it does look like a legitimate document, but inside there it's suspect. So we're asking, who is this and what's happening? So we want to challenge this order, if it is indeed an order. And it was apparently done ex parte. How do you do a search warrant on an issue like this, which is in the public domain, immediately after Fazul Mohammed, the fake, fraudulent Fazul Mohammed, pretends that he has got control over a domain that's not in his realm? That is a suspicion. It is way too much. And we're asking the question, if indeed this regime, if these guys think that what's been going on the last few weeks, the last week or so, is indeed legitimate, why are they attacking people who are critical? For what reason? If you have won, as they say they have won, why are they fearing? These are acts of people who have stolen. This is how thieves operate. cover up.
What should happen legitimately, according to you, if someone were to follow you up on issues of tax or on issues of registration? What should happen?
Let me ask George Kigoro, who's the director of Kenya Human Rights Commission, which was audited by KRA. He'll tell you what happened then and why is it different now. George, please.
Mr. Kigoro, how is an audit? You say this was supposed to be a tax audit. How is a tax audit supposed to be carried out?
Okay, I don't know how a tax audit is supposed to be carried out, but let me just say what happened to us. KRA came to us again after we had been reported to them by Fazul Mohammed. It seems like Fazul Mohammed is the one that moves every government department to act or to remember its responsibilities. So KRA came to us. They had a letter. It was a very respectful approach. We had an initial meeting. They told us what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. We said we had no problem with it. They said they were going to carry an audit of our organization for the last 5 years. We said we have got nothing at all to hide. We gave them a room. We gave them a lot of tea and coffee every day. And we did not charge them. Yes, and they carried out the audit and they finished the audit and they went away. We are fine with it because it clears us and it exonerated us from the baseless accusations that Fazul Mohammed had made. But what is happening here is a completely different approach. You've come here with policemen to an organization that has no notice that you are coming, that has not denied you entry into their premises, that is not resisting your audit, and you've come here to break into that organization by force. What kind of and then you come with documents that you say are the basis of the legal authority to come into the organization, and those documents are defective. This is a sort of a fly-by-day that is being carried out fly-by-night, being carried out during the day to harm organizations.
Mr. Ndubi, sorry, yeah, just go ahead.
The technical point we are making is that this application is highly likely to be a forgery. If you look at the heading of it, it suggests that it's an application made before the magistrate court in Kilimani. The affidavit doesn't relate, that has no detail relating to the orders being sought in the notice of motion. But most important, strangely, and why we are saying it's highly likely a forgery, the order they are seeking to execute does not have even the name of the purported magistrate who has signed it, who authorized this. And you can see, if you look at the order, it doesn't relate to any person. It is not saying go and audit either Africog or Gladio Loteno. Secondly, if they wanted Gladio Loteno's accounts, Gladio Loteno doesn't live here. These are officers of Africog. How can they seek an order against Gladio Loteno and come to hold Africog hostage?
So what is going to happen? What have you decided that you're going to do moving forward? Are you going to allow them in, or what are you going to do?
Certainly, not on the basis of a worthless piece of paper.
There is no nexus between this document and the other document.
Yes. If you want to see the heading of this, by the way, Dr. Kaminwa, there is something interesting here. It is saying that it's the Republic through the DCI KRA police unit. Do we have such a unit?
I've never heard of it.
KRA has its own enforcement mechanism, which does not have, doesn't include police officers. Officers of KRA may have.
Well, live proceedings there from Lavington. There seems to be a standoff between the Africog officers and, of course, the officials who are there to raid those offices. They say those concerns are not legitimate. In fact, let me include my panelists to talk about this, to make the heads and tails of it all. Then later on, we'll speak about the NASA announcement. We haven't forgotten, so just stay with us. Let's start with you, Apollo. What do you make of that raid that's happening at Africog? And what the lawyer is saying, is that true, that Africog shouldn't be under the NGOs? It should be just a private company, but yet it's being raided now?
Yes, the raid is unfortunate, very, very unfortunate. What is important is that we know the legal regime under which Africog has been registered, and it's a legitimate organization. It's not an NGO, it is a company limited. So they make returns to the Register of Companies. But looking at all transaction from how this thing snowballed, you can see that this raid is associated with what Fazul had written and improper motive. That's what I can say. Yeah. Yes.
Shefa, what do you make of it? Is it strange, though, that first, when the letter came out, it was AfriCog was supposed to be deregistered because it wasn't even registered in the first place. Yeah. But now there's the issue of the tax evasion. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things strange happening right now. I'm still just processing the whole thing of there's actually a literal physical raid happening. I mean, if you're talking about a company or an organization or a society or a CB or whatever needed to have been paying taxes, because that's what they've talked about, that they've come to audit. Shouldn't there be a process to this? Why are you raiding people's offices? And then you go back to where it all began. You know, they want to deregister Kenya Human Rights Commission and they want to deregister of, oh, they haven't paid taxes, they need to, you know, be clear on expatriates and all these things. But the timing of it completely blows your mind in regards to, are they doing this for the right reasons? Why now? You know? Why now when it is so clear that Kenya Human Rights Commission and AfriGog and all these other organizations were about to come up and file a petition around credibility of the just concluded elections? Why now? It is so there's so many things wrong.
Do you have a problem with the timing, Sandra?
Wow, for me two things arise. Underneath all these discussions, my perception is first, the civil society operates within, it doesn't operate in a vacuum. And even the individuals working within these organizations are from our community. So what happens within the civil society most times is also a reflection of how we are running our affairs out here. So the same issues we are grappling with corruption, the same issues we are grappling with tribalism, the same issues we are grappling with nepotism and whatnot. These are issues that have still come out that are happening within the civil society. So indeed, if there are instances where the organizations that have been pointed out might have breached the law in one way or another, then it is right for the government to come in and investigate and find an amicable solution to it. However, the timing and the procedure of it is what is leaving so much room for speculation. If indeed there was an issue, and coming at this particular time, someone might say that it's being done for the purposes of stifling the opportunities to go to court. And of course, now the procedures also that come with it, because you have Public Benefits Organizations Act, for example, that details how you're supposed to go through it. It says you give a notice first, then you wait for 14 days. That's when the re-registration or deregistration takes place. Yeah. So I think moving forward, these are conversations that we need to have in terms of internal regulation of the civil society organizations and the role that the government can play in that, and how both sides of the divide can move towards ensuring that we have institutions that are meeting their mandate and working together for the benefit of the country.
Also, can I add something really quick? Could this be, just to step away from it, could this be a distraction?
From what exactly?
From everything else that's happening in the country, from the fact that we are all waiting for, you know, to conclude the election, because it's not concluded yet. It's still a process, it's still ongoing, there's still so many issues being raised around it. Could it be a distraction to keep everybody else who was focused on talking about its legitimacy openly, completely engaged in all these other things? Because now we will see Kenya Human Rights, AfriGog, and all these other people fighting, okay, deregistration, this and that. There's a movement back and forth. Time is elapsing, right? Could it be a distraction to just keep us away from questioning what they had already set out to question for the people of this country?
Kabage, do you think this could be a distraction, considering the timing, because they only have a limited time to go to court?
Well, I just want to hope that the coincidence is not deliberately engineered. I think Kenyans also have to get to a point where they realize the fact that we have had election doesn't mean the functions of state cease to operate. KRA operates under a law. NGO operates under a law. You and I operate under a law. There is one thing that Kenyans must come to realize. Any civilized society
must of necessity owe fidelity to operation of the law, unless and until that law has either been repealed or been amended. Now, I have no details that would make me conclude there is targeting of either AFRICOG, because I hear it is not even an NGO, all right? One will require to see about it. And I think if we Kenyans accept the doctrine of rule of law and the due process, a lot of these things will not even happen.
Okay.
And that doctrine of rule of law and due process applies to both the citizens and the governance of the nation.
All right.
For me, that is most really important. Unfortunately, as a lawyer, and my colleagues there will agree, if you make a conclusive statement, it must be based on two grounds: the facts and the law. I don't know what are the facts of AFRICOG, whether they have filed their returns or they are not filed their returns. Okay. As I sit here, I have no basis of saying what about this.
Mboya, Silva Kazibwe on Twitter says, all NGOs know the rules and regulations governing them.
Yes.
Let them not politicize their woes, but show us how effective they are as required.
Yes. Let me tell you, and I thought my learned colleague here, because he is also a successful entrepreneur, will talk about the procedure of tax, because I've dealt with this kind of cases. Indeed, just before the election, I had a similar case with now currently the women rep for Kirinyaga elect, Ngirishi.
Yeah.
She was slapped with a similar order. The procedure, when KRA wants to look at your tax books, is they give you a notice. And I'm sure my learned colleague, and you're supposed to provide those books.
True.
Okay?
True.
If you don't comply, then they are supposed to go to court, okay, and obtain a warrant to come and now search and do what they are required to do under the law. Now, we have not seen any information that they had actually provided this notice to AFRICOG, first of all. And AFRICOG then did not comply with that request because they have those powers. But the procedure itself is even wrong, because they should have said that AFRICOG was slapped with this notice under the KRA Act to provide the following, or the books as follows, and they did not. Okay. So the procedure is totally wrong. And I brought this thing up because I know that also KRA has been used in the political fights. My client I'm talking about was slapped with a similar order just because she had said that she was interested in politics.
Hold on that thought. Hold on that thought. Hold for a minute. We have to go back to AFRICOG. We have the live feed again. Let's find out what's happening as we speak. Then we'll come back and conclude this discussion before we get into the NASA one.
Yeah, just take cuts from far.
Oh, hi, how are you? I think are you going in studio? Call me first.
Live pictures there from Lavington, where there's still a standoff, it seems, after the AFRICOG offices were raided. They claim that what they've been shown on the affidavit does not match the requirements or the instructions that have been given out. Of course, earlier on, the Kenya Human Rights Commission also joined into that and said that Azul Mohammed, who's the NGO Coordination Board Executive Director, is a fraud and an attention seeker who should not be given time to air his grievances. But there's also a lot of speculation about the timing of this raid, and there are those who are saying on Twitter here that if they have rules and regulations, they should stick by them. But earlier on, Maina Kiai was saying that it's not the regulations that they haven't stuck to, it's because they're being witch-hunted. Our very own Andrew Ching is following those proceedings very closely. Andrew?
Well, thank you, Trevor. As you rightly mentioned, it is a cold, dreary morning here at the offices of AFRICOG here in Lavington. The drizzle just increasing a bit, but it's also dreary for the civil society community, as they are saying, because they have woken up to what they're calling a raid. Officers from who are saying they are from the Kenya Revenue Authority have come in with a search warrant. They are saying that they wanted to search the offices of AFRICOG, but the search warrant has been dismissed by the lawyers of AFRICOG, by the lawyers of the civil society and AFRICOG, who are gathered here, whom you can see right behind me there. And the lawyers just saying that the warrants do not specifically address AFRICOG, do not specifically address the executive director of AFRICOG, that is Gladwell Otieno, and that the affidavit has not been signed by any magistrate. So they are questioning this affidavit. They are saying that the division which these officers say they come from, to them, does not exist. So they are saying that this has not been done properly and lawfully. They're wondering why a tax audit, which these officials say they have come to do, should be conducted in such a manner. Earlier on, when the executive director Gladwell Otieno was here, she was saying that there was no appointment that has been sought from her. So she was pretty bitter and really gave the officials who are here a piece of her mind, so to speak. But the officers gathered here, some of them are still in the vehicles here. There are two vans that are outside the AFRICOG offices, full of officers who have come to conduct the audit. Some of them you can see right there, and the other one with the blue plates. The officials gathered here who have been saying that they are the ones who have been sent here to conduct the audit. The official who spoke earlier was saying that he is an inspector, but we still are not clear on what the officials have come here to do. Even with the warrant that they have, we don't know. The NGO, the civil society, is saying that it is a tax audit, but the police officers have not spoken to us and have not told us what specifically they have come to do. We will try to get them and find out what exactly they have come to look for at the offices of AFRICOG. But the civil society have said that they will not allow the officials in until they come with the proper documentation to say what exactly they want to do here. Trevor?
Yesterday, the NGO Coordination Board mentioned that this was the reason they're raiding AFRICOG is because they're not registered as required by law. And now you're talking about tax evasion. Doesn't that make it seem a bit fishy?
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. It is not clear what the party, the officials, the government officials have come here to do. We have still not yet found time to speak to them. When they were speaking, they just gave the search warrant, which showed that they had come here. And another thing is that we've spoken to Maina Kiai earlier on, and he was saying that AFRICOG is not registered as an NGO, so it does not fall under the realm or under the control of Azul Mohammed and the NGO Coordination Board. So there is still some miscommunication on what exactly is going on and who should really regulate AFRICOG then if it is not registered under the NGO Coordination Act. So these are some of the issues that are still conflicting and confusing. But we will try to find out what exactly should be happening going forward. Remember, the executive director of the Kenya Human Rights Commission, George Kigoro, saying that when a tax audit was being conducted in his organization, the KRA officials made an appointment and they came for several days and they were seated in the office and they conducted an audit and they completed that audit and sort of cleared the organization. So, but we were here speaking to Maina Kiai earlier on, and he was saying that AFRICOG is not registered under the NGO Coordination Board. And even in any case, if any officials were to come here to conduct an audit, then it should have been done in a proper way, where they should just seek an appointment and come in and do their audit and leave in a formal manner. Remember, I told you earlier on about the words of Gladys Rutino. She was pretty angry when she was speaking to the officer, the lead officer who was directing the officials that have come here. She was pretty angry when she was talking to them and saying that this is not the way a government is supposed to behave. And many people have said that the sort of attack, if you could call it that, is a veiled attempt to sort of muzzle the civil society, given the criticism that they've leveled against the government and what has been happening so far. Remember, some members of the civil society have been very harsh critics of the government going back to 2013, before even the Jubilee government came into power. Remember, Gladys Rutino and some of these people were among the people who initially, remember, going all the way back to the cases of the ICC. And in any case, this is not the first time that some of these things are happening. Remember, the NGO Coordination Board has done this so many times before. Remember, there's a time a while back when it blacklisted so many organizations because of the lifestyles of the executive directors, even international non-governmental organizations, because of the salaries that were being paid to the directors, and on other so many issues. So this is not the first time, and it has been happening for quite a while, but this is the first time that we are seeing it at this level, where government officials have come to the gates of a non-governmental organization to conduct such in their offices. Trevor?
Andrew, two final questions from me. One, yesterday, Kenya Human Rights Commission said that they are only seeing those instructions on the media. They had not received any letters. Have they received those letters now?
Well, none, and even the search warrant that the officers came with had not been served on AFRICOG earlier on. So they were seeing it for the first time. And remember, as I've just told you, one of the complaints by the executive director of AFRICOG here was that there was no appointment that had been sought from her. So they are seeing all these things for the first time, according to what they are telling us here on camera and according to what we are witnessing here today. They are saying that this is the first time that they are seeing some of these things, Trevor.
And finally, Andrew, they're still questioning the legitimacy of Fazul Mohammed, who's the NGO's coordination board. Do they still hold that opinion that is a fraud?
Well, I believe that right now they have bigger problems to deal with. They have the offices here to protect and to get probably a legal warrant if there is anything that needs to be handled first before they get to that. Of course, the issue of Fazul and his credentials and his credibility has been a discussion for a long time going back. But for now, they have been dealing with what exactly is supposed to happen today, what exactly is supposed to happen here today. Is it legal? And if it is not legal, then what are the proper channels that should be followed so that the organization also complies with the law, whether it is in filing tax, whether it is in registration, and whether it is in anything that is supposed to comply with legally, and what these officers need to do so that everybody at the end of the day does things legally. But as it stands now, their main complaint is that this attack, and if you can just see there, one of the vans which had brought the officers leaving the premises, but there are still others here. That is just one of the vans that has left the premises. But Trevor, as I was telling you, they have a bigger problem right now of trying to comply with the law at the moment, because the officers are still here. Some of them are still in the vehicles, as you can see. So the officers seem to be adamant that they want to implement what they came here for. That is a bigger problem for them now, so that they ensure that they comply with the law, and the officers also ensure that they do what is legal also.
All right, thanks, Andrew. That's Andrew Ching speaking to us live from Lavington, where there's a raid on the AFRICOG offices. We'll touch base with him again in case of any new developments. So far, there's still a standoff. The officers are meant to go and look for the legitimate paperwork. Kabagi, you wanted to jump into that.
Well, I think the point I was going to agree with my brother here is that KRA, from what I know, if they do want to carry out what is called in-depth audit, they usually will give you notice and they prepare you.
Yeah.
What we don't know at the moment is whether that has happened.
They're saying it hasn't.
I don't know. But again, as I said, you see, Kenyans also must come to terms with one thing. As I said earlier on, the life of our nation does not come to a standstill just because an event like the one you have just gone through takes place.
Yeah.
And I cannot sit here and make judgment as to whether what is going on is right or wrong.
Okay.
Because there are consequences.
Okay.
AFRICOG can sue
the
government for all the institution that may have caused whatever is happening to happen, as long as they also are law-abiding.
Okay.
And I think if, as Kenyans, we accept that we all operate under the law, then a lot of things will go right. Because there cannot be any question of impunity. Because a society that is operating under the rule of law is the best society there can be.
Okay.
It doesn't matter whether you are a government or you are an individual or your organization, you exist per the law.
Okay.
And there is a process through which things must be done. And I think this is where, to me, I believe that as a country, we must owe to ourselves that feeling of saying, yes, I will operate under the law.
Okay. Sandra, you want to jump into this?
Yes, I've just remembered way back in 2013, I think that's when this, I don't want to call it a purge, that's when the government started its investigations and cleanup. And I think based on the security issues that we were seeing. So it's during this time that close to, I think over 900 NGOs were deregistered at that time. And of course the issue was, and what was revealed then, that you had so many NGOs that were operating outside the law. There were a good number that weren't filing their taxes and whatnot. So I think for me it goes back to the initial point I made, that if indeed there were any discrepancies in the law, if indeed that there were any legalities that were committed, then the government should come in to ensure that issues are straightened. However, the unfortunate thing right now is that the issue is being played out in the court of public opinion, and it's being played out in the media, with one side of the divide, I think, being seen as having more say than the other. So I think moving forward, laws and procedures, again, timing, is open to various interpretations, but I think, as my colleague has said, it's important that now we move to the next step. If indeed there are any grievances, let both parties move on with evidence, move on with following the right procedure, so to speak, to get the matter resolved.
Boy, in your experience as an advocate, the argument that Fazul's paperwork and legitimacy is being questioned, does it have a direct impact on what the NGO Coordination Board is meting out? Because even without him, the NGO Coordination Board is still expected to carry out its mandate. Are we missing the point here by questioning his credibility?
No, we are not missing the point. First of all, with respect to AFRICOG, AFRICOG does not fall within the purview of the NGO Council. That one must be understood. Okay? It is a company limited. It is registered in the company registry. That one falls under the registrar of companies. So Fazul does not have any mandate over it. Now, if we are talking about Kenya Human Rights Commission, that one is an NGO, okay? So that one falls within the purview of the NGO Coordination Board. However, there has been the issue of Fazul as a person that has been long running. We know the ombudsperson has also said and actually communicated, and I've seen that letter, that he is unfit to hold public office because of certain integrity issues with regard to his education. Okay? So that is still situated within the same discourse that we are having right now, and why it is perceived that he's a hatchet person being used to then muzzle the voice of the civil society.
Kabage, I see you shaking your head, but let me bring in Shaifa on this first, because I also want to move this along and talk about the supposed big announcement that we're waiting.
Yeah, true. I mean, focusing or even questioning his qualification, is he fit to be in that office or not, is very, very right. I think we cannot have people whom we are questioning their ability to run a certain office based on do they qualify or not, or do they meet a certain threshold. I believe the whole idea of people being, you know, put in a pedestal of you need to achieve certain credentials or a criteria to be able to hold an office is for once that people can be able to trust that you are able to function, you're able to understand your mandate within that office, you're able to deliver, you are able to soberly decipher issues that are coming up within that particular office. So when people are questioning the ability of Fazul to hold that office, it's been something that we have all asked. It's been in the open, nothing has been done about it.
But the argument is if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law, regardless of who's countering you.
Absolutely, nobody is disregarding that.
If you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law.
That is so true. But see, the thing for me is, did Africa break the law, right? Those are the things we're speculating around, because they've said categorically there's a process, right? Mboy has said there's a process. KRA was supposed to send a letter or some kind of information and say, you know what, hey, show us ABCD regarding your taxes. If they fail to comply within a certain period of time, then, you know, action can be taken. Go to court and say, we are now summoning you to come forth, or we'll send our people to come and do whatever they need to do. That has not happened, right? So my worry with the fact that Fazul does not fit this office, which everybody knows he does not, based on his credentials, is you have somebody who you can easily manipulate. Yeah? And this same person can easily do what is being done now. Crippling and stifling NGOs and civil societies which are legitimately operating within their mandate. If they're breaking the law, trust me, I am all about go all out, get people to follow the law. Okay. But we cannot have somebody who did not follow the law even when he's being put in a position, trying to deregister, trying to curtail, trying to, you know, bring back all the hard work that other people have been doing. People who are legitimately registered. It's not right.
Okay, Kabage?
Well, I think first of all, in the interest of the public, it's important for us to give some information that is pertinent to the issue of Fazul. First, he was supposed to have registered for a Bachelor of Science degree in agriculture at Egerton University, where, according to the record, he did not graduate. Then he was hired in the NGO world, governing body, which was a government institution. When he was hired, there was a challenge as to the legitimacy of his qualification. Yeah. And the matter went to court. And the court reinstated him. When the court reinstated him, and then the NGO Council was under the Ministry of Devolution, and it was moved to the Office of the President. That is where it is at this particular moment. Now, what I find a little bit unfortunate is that we are questioning the credibility of the officer who has maybe purportedly given orders that this or that to happen. I think we are missing the point. Okay. Because if that person is in office, he is in office. He can't put himself in the office. Legally, he is there because the court of law say that he should be there. That's the first thing. Secondly, this issue of NGO Council is being played here as if it was a factor there. That factor was introduced by Maina K. Okay. There's no letter that was cited that Fazul Mohammed has gone or has issued instructions to attack or to go and investigate.
Hold on that thought. They're speaking right now in Africa, in Westlands. We'll come back so that you finish, but let's listen into what they're saying as we speak.
kuchunguza mambo ya tax returns, books of account, databases, and any information they have, and all records. Nasema all records. Sasa tunauliza, ikiwa wana shaka au shauku kwamba Africa labda hailipi ushuru fulani, waseme tunashuku hamlipi VAT. Sio kwamba kuna makosa mmefanya. They have come here with the presumption of guilt. Kwamba Africa is guilty of non-payment of tax without laying a basis for such. But what I am telling you is from the face of it, those papers are forgeries. They are unlikely to have come from the court. Kwa sababu hata ile order yenyewe haina jina ya yule hakimu. Ina signature tu na seal ya Chief Magistrate Court, lakini haina jina, kwa sababu kila order ambayo unapata kutoka mahakama ni lazima iseme kwamba maombi fulani yamewasilishwa mbele ya mimi fulani hakimu. Ndio hata mahakama inakuwa inawajibika kwa sheria. Sasa hivi anybody can go and print a piece of paper and come with it here and say we have come to search because we have this warrant. So by the time you discover that it was a forgery, they have already messed you up.
There have been information that Africa is one of those parties that are planning to go to the Supreme Court. And this is one of the issues that are targeting to make sure
Which
that
information?
They do not manage in that process. What is your position over the same?
I don't know your source of that information. Even if the information existed, which I doubt, they should be getting orders against every single Kenyan then who might be interested to go to the Supreme Court. Why Africa? Unless you are saying that they want to incapacitate Africa from ever seeking legal redress for whatever reasons they have, whether it's about a presidential election, any election, or any process. There is nothing wrong for Africa or any other person seeking to go to court. And indeed, if it is true that they are raiding Africa because of it is thought or consideration of going to court, that should worry Kenya. It should worry Kenyans. It should worry us, everyone, that someone might be seeking that courts of law should not be approached for any redress. I'm not saying that Africa indeed wanted to go to the Supreme Court, but it has a right, just like you and me have the right to do so. If someone from somewhere seeks to incapacitate me or you from going to court, then you should really, really be worried what kind of leadership you have.
And finally, could you call this a pure criminal issue or it's political?
You know, sometimes politics, sometimes crime can result from politics, and I think that the people who came here are engaging in crime, which may be politically motivated, because abuse of the law is a crime, abuse of office is a crime. Whether it is motivated by politics, I do not know, but it is likely that it is motivated by such, because I have said before and I will say again, Uhuru Kenyatta has never been comfortable with human rights and governance organizations. In fact, he has spoken openly against them. There is a huge section of his administration that believes that it is the human rights organizations that took them to The Hague last time, and they have never forgiven those organizations through that perception. It's a vendetta that I think it's likely they are carrying, and shamefully so, because there is a level of leadership you reach where even those who insult you, you forgive them and move on. So let's say this to Uhuru Kenyatta and his government: forget and move on, accept and move on.
What's the next move?
Court.
Which court are you going to?
The High Court.
Live proceedings there from Lavington, like you heard from the lawyer. The next step is they're going to go to court to challenge the legal redress. And they, of course, they claim that it's a vendetta that's being held against them by the government. We're following all those details for you, and also coming up in your screens in just a bit. We'll cross over to the coast, where the Coast Civil Society Network, comprising over 30 human rights commissions, are also speaking on the same issue. Let's listen in.
Just recently, you know that the majority leader did say that they will use their tyranny of numbers to remove the office of the Auditor General, who they feel does not work in their best interest. So we are concerned that the acting Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Dr. Matiang'i, who so far has been extremely professional in his work, judging by the strict academic standards that he has always spoken about, has chosen to turn a blind eye to an officer in the NGO Coordination Board with questionable academic qualifications working under him. We wish to question why the CS is strict with the Ministry of Education, politicians, and other persons, while officials who work under his docket do not have academic credentials that deserve of the positions which they hold. We, the undersigned non-state actors, members of the civil society, and human rights defenders take this opportunity to denounce in the strongest terms the harassment and intimidation of AFRICOG and KHRC and other NGOs in Kenya, which seems to have taken a consistent pattern that is aimed at preventing them from carrying out their legitimate human rights work, including the transparency of the elections of 2017. In any case, the rule of law and standard operating procedures worldwide does require that an accused person or entity is proffered a chance to be heard before any measures are taken against them. We wish, therefore, to demand as follows: that the government guarantees in all circumstances the physical and psychological security and integrity of the members of KHRC and AFRICOG, as well as of all human rights defenders in the country. We know that later this morning, police have raided the offices of these two institutions together with KRA. We don't know under what circumstances this is being done. We also wish to demand that the government refrains from any capricious legal or administrative measures against the KHRC and AFRICOG and their members, or against any other human rights organization in the country, that prevent or hinder legitimate human rights work, including but not limited to threatened or actual deregistration of human rights NGOs. And we also wish to demand that the government complies with all the provisions of the international instruments to which we are signatories, including the United Nations Human Rights Council resolution, the African Commission on Human Rights and People's Rights resolutions, on the freedom of association, and Resolution 119 of the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders of the African Commission on Human Rights and People's Rights, to which this country has signed. And these are instruments that are in keeping with our constitutions, and that require that before actions, administrative actions such as the ones that have been taken are taken, that there is due process, that you do give a chance to institutions which you accuse to speak so that they defend themselves, and that not all administrative problems attract the death penalty. So that if it's just a case of people having not complied with legal obligations, including matters such as accounts, you do require them and give them time to provide those, failure to which then you take other steps that are there in the regulations and the law. So thank you very much, members of the press. This statement has been signed by 23 civil society institutions that work in this region, and we will take questions if there are any, and all my colleagues will be available to provide answers to those. Thank you. Yes.
Kwa ufupi tu kuhusiana na swala hili zima, ni nini haswa mashirika haya yanataka?
Ningependa kumpa nafasi mwenzangu Halid, ambao Kiswahili chake ni cha
nafikiri
njoo hapo aweze kuzungumza mambo hayo kwa sielewi bana.
Nafikiri kama mashirika ya hapa Pwani tuna wasiwasi mkubwa tunapoona mambo kama haya yakitendeka katika wakati ambao nchi yetu hivi sasa ina haja ya kuleta jamii kwa pamoja ili tuweze kupiga hatua kama nchi. Kama tulivyosema katika waraka wetu ni kwamba mashirika ya Kenya Human Rights Commission pamoja na AFRICOG ni mashirika ambayo yanatambulika dunia nzima kwa kazi ambayo wanafanya ya kutetea demokrasia, kutetea haki za binadamu na haki za jamii kwa jumla. Kwa hivyo tunaingiwa na wasiwasi mkubwa tukiona nchi yetu hii inachukua hatua ambazo tunaweza kusema ni kinyume na katiba. Kama mnavyofahamu, swala la Kenya Human Rights Commission lilikuwa mahakamani na uamuzi ulitoka ni jinsi aina gani ambavyo mambo yanafaa kupelekwa. Lakini hatua hizi ambazo tunaziona sasa zinaenda kinyume. Wengine wetu tayari tumewahi kupitia mambo kama haya na tunashukuru kwamba koti kwamba serikali lazima itoe hakikisho kwamba makundi ya kijamii yako huru kufanya kazi kama vile katiba inatuhakikishia, na tuweze kufanya kazi bila vitisho au tashwishi za aina zozote. Vile vile tunasema kwamba serikali lazima ifuatilie convention ama mikataba ya kimataifa ambayo sisi wenyewe kama nchi tumeweka sahihi kuhusu utendakazi wa mashirika ya kijamii. Haya ni mambo ambayo sisi kama mashirika tungependa kuona yakiweza kutekelezwa hapa Kenya ili tuwe ni wenye kufanya kazi bila wasiwasi au kutishiwa na mtu yoyote au kitengo chochote kile katika ngazi za serikali.
Mashirika yaliyolengwa madai ni kwamba kuna masharti fulani ambayo ni ya kitaifa ama ya serikali hayajatimizwa. What if kama hao masharti kweli hayajatimizwa? Inakuwaje kwamba mtakuwa mnakiuka, mnasimama pamoja na ukiukaji wa sheria za nchi ama mtazamo?
Swala la kukiuka masharti ni kwa shirika la Kenya Human Rights Commission. Na kama ninavyosema, haya yote yalifikishwa mahakamani. Si mambo geni. Haya mashtaka ni mambo ambayo yalikuwa mahakamani, walienda mahakamani mara 3 kwa mwaka huu ulioko, na koti iliamuru na kusema kwamba shirika liachwe liendelee kufanya kazi ikiwa kuna shida yote. Na tunajua kwamba KRA tayari ilifika Kenya Human Rights Commission, ilifanya uchunguzi wake wa madai ya kodi na mambo kama hayo. Kwa hivyo haya ni mambo ambayo tayari yashashughulikiwa. Kwa hivyo hatuelewi kwa nini bado visingizio hivyo vinatumiwa ili kuweza kuleta madai haya tena kwa mashirika haya. Kwa upande wa AFRICOG, tukumbuke kwamba AFRICOG haijasajiliwa chini ya sheria ya NGO. AFRICOG imesajiliwa kama kampuni na kuna mashirika tofauti ambayo yanatenda kazi hapa nchini ambayo yamesajiliwa chini ya sheria ya kampuni. Kwa hivyo NGO board haina jurisdiction ama tutasema kwa Kiswahili haina mamlaka juu ya shirika la AFRICOG kwa sababu halijasajiliwa hilo shirika chini ya mwavuli wa NGO.
Hatua hizi zinaweka mashirika yaliyopo katika eneo la
Live proceedings there from Mombasa. The Coast Civil Society, of course, condemning the acts that just happened in AFRICOG. Our very own Andrew Ching is following those proceedings for you. As soon as there's a bit of developments in Lavington, we will cross over to him. Kabage, vendetta is what they're calling it. And you're finishing your thought on the issue of the NGOs before we get into the NASA announcement.
What I had in mind is that, and I said this, is that I will not even be bothered if it was either Kenya National Human Rights Commission or even AFRICOG to go into a personal attack of the person of Fauz. It is irrelevant. This person cannot be assumed or purportedly to be the law. He is conducting himself within the law, hopefully. And if it's not within the law, then the law should catch up with him. And how does the law catch up with him? You, the aggrieved party, go to court. And I can tell you one thing. I'm a lawyer. I have confidence in our court. If you put up your case, this is not the court of the 90s or even 2000. The courts of today, they will listen to your case and they will judge accordingly.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that they are infallible. That is not the case. But I would like as Kenyans also to avoid the issue of personal attack. Because in our law, there is no such a thing. If you see somebody being sued, you sue in the name of the person who is involved or the institution that is involved. You get what I mean? But for us to spend a lot of time talking about Fawz, whether he's qualified or he's not qualified, it is the very same law. The man went to court and the court said, you are legitimately an officer of this institution. Nobody has gone to court to challenge that decision. There's no court of appeal decision. There's no Supreme Court decision that has said this person should be removed. So the NGO individuals that are talking in a manner that is disparaging on that person, I take exception personally.
Okay.
Because it is not consistent with really what we should be. Plus, I did not see any paper that was quoted there saying that the NGO Council has directed that the KRA should conduct investigation that is conducting. So why are we bringing in the NGO Council there in that particular issue?
Okay. There's a letter there, though.
Now, if there is a letter there, then for me, that letter, consistent with the registration of that of AFLOCOG, it is totally illegal.
Okay.
Totally illegal. And on that basis, then I would agree that the NGO Council is completely operating in a manner that is not consistent with the law and should be equally be challenged. Okay. And that is what we should do. Because if you have a society where we also use force to say you cannot do this, then the other person uses the force that you can do this, then we get into a situation of anarchy.
Okay.
And when you have anarchy reigning supreme in any nation, let me tell you, every citizen of that country, from the president to the lowest person, are victims.
Okay.
And that's what I would say.
Boy, let me get your final remarks on this issue, because I want us to get into the discussion of NASA, which is also one of the things we're expecting today. Your final remarks on this issue of the NGOs.
First of all, I saw the letter that was written. In fact, it was written to the Director of Criminal Investigation, but also copied to Central Bank and KRA. Actually he was directing the Director of Criminal Investigation, which he has no power, yes, and he agrees with me now, because I think we were also in the letter, to go and close AFRICOG, but also directed the Central Bank of Kenya to close the accounts, the bank accounts. Yeah. And we say, where does he draw that power from? First of all, the only person capable of directing Director of Criminal Investigation is the DPP to investigate. Yes, nobody else. Okay. So it is just out of hand, and we should look at the law before somebody makes a step.
Shaifa, Nginyanga Ruma here says AFRICOG is described as a non-profit organization and mainly deals with governance matters. How was it even registered as a company to begin with?
I mean,
Shaifa, yeah, as you give me a final remarks on that.
You know, we could go back and forth into, is it registered legally or not? And the fact remains, it is registered as a company. Boya had said and clarified clearly about that and how it even got to become operational. The question here is, are they not abiding by the same laws that allow them to register? Question one, they're going to court. I hope they clarify that. The allegation of they did not pay taxes and they needed to comply and now their offices are being raided, completely uncalled for, completely unnecessary. There's a procedure should apply that should have applied to them even before, because this whole chaos that is being created now is completely unnecessary. Okay. Completely unnecessary.
Sandra, Kenya Human Rights Commission says they've done this before. This is not the first time they're being accused of these same issues. Yeah. So is this like double jeopardy in your, do you reckon?
From what I hear, they'd already filed a case possibly along the similar lines a couple of months ago, or is it a couple of years ago? And I want to agree with my fellow panelists that timing and procedure leaves it very open to a lot of speculation. But my misgiving would be if those most aggrieved by this process want to play it out in the media. Because one other thing that the civil society must appreciate, that where we are now as a country, there's a lot of polarization. So that if they're going to continue playing this out in the media, then they might not have the best conclusion that they might want to have on the issue. And so I'm really glad that they want to go to court, which is going to be the final arbiter on this issue. And if indeed they are found to have flouted a number of rules, the justice will prevail. If indeed the NGO Council and Fazul is found to have flouted certain rules, justice must prevail as well.
All right, good. Let's get into the conversation about NASA, and now you'll go first. What do you think they should be talking about? It was supposed to happen yesterday, and it's supposed to happen today as well, so we're waiting. So what do you reckon they should be talking about? Well, what are the most likely outcomes, and what would you like to see as a Kenyan? What would you want them to talk about?
What I would like to see first on the list is perhaps for our dear Raila Odinga to concede defeat eventually, as has been he's received many requests on the matter, both at the national, regional, and even at the international level. If this is not an option, the second option would be to go to court. And I think this is what a majority of us are leaning on, that our constitution, which he was one of the greatest supporters, should be the guiding light through this process. And it has provided very well that in the event that there are any disputes, then we move to court, to the Supreme Court. And you've seen even the courts advertising, going a step further and even advertising in our newspapers, that these are the procedures. If you have any issues, then let's move to court and have this issue solved. So if it's not going to court, as I have heard from different quarters, that going to court is not an option. And there's something else that I must add, that not going to court will also be a very disingenuous, if that's the word, because prior to this election, NASA filed hundreds and hundreds of cases in court. So it's only a span of 3 weeks where I don't think anyone can now be convinced that the courts have suddenly changed and they're not in their favor, and the judges and this and that. So I think the best option for this country would be to go to court. However, the third option, what I might expect, is for NASA to continue playing playing this issue in the public gallery, playing it in the court of public opinion.
Okay, hold on to that thought. I'll come back to you to finish this. These things are happening in real time, so my panelists will also weigh in on this. But for now, let's cross over back to Westlands, where we're going to see Andrew Chieng is following up. It's in Lavington, actually, where the AfriCog offices were raided earlier on. And Andrew Chieng is joining us live there. I believe he wants to speak to John Gidongo. Andrew, over to you.
Well, thank you, Trevor. I'm here with John Gidongo, who is the chairman of AfriCog, just to highlight to us some of the issues that are happening here and explain really what exactly has been going on since morning and what probably the government officials who came here could be demanding from AfriCog, some of the issues that have been raised in social media and some of the questions that people want answered from AfriCog. Bwana Gidongo, from what you've heard so far, what are the demands of the government officials who are here, and who exactly are they? What have they given you? Any papers? What do they want?
As you know, I arrived after they were already here, and so I've had a look at the affidavit and warrant which is being used for this raid. And I must admit it's slightly confusing because it mentions the Criminal Procedure Code, and the affidavit talks about an investigation regarding a tax situation, alleged tax offences by AfriCog. And so the document itself that has brought both KRA and police officers here in such great numbers is a bit confusing, and number one. Number two, as AfriCog, as the chairman of AfriCog, I have not actually been made aware that there was any question being asked of us with regard to these issues. I'm the one who signs the accounts, so and other documents. So I would have known if there was an investigation, or if there were questions, if there were issues that needed clarification. We've always been very free and easy. So this is a very unfortunate and development that's taking place, and a waste of public resources, and a waste of the very taxes which they've ostensibly come here to collect.
There's been question about the registration of AFRICOG. How is the organization registered, and what exactly could there, because there's a question that you're not registered under the NGOs Act, how are you registered, and what should be the way going forward?
The AFRICOG is registered as a company limited by guarantee. So it's a legal entity in that respect, and as the law currently stands, as far as I'm aware, it has no relationship with the NGO Coordination Board.
So he is interfering in a domain which is not supposed to be coming into. That's what you would like to say?
I mean, we have no relationship with that board.
Okay, I'm Oliver from Capital FM. Sorry. How is it that you do non-profit work but you're registered as a company? Yes.
It's a legal form of registration for an organization that is engaged in a range of activities. When I ran organizations before, there have been different ways that you can register to engage in a range of activities. There are those who are registered as trusts, those who are out and out NGOs, there are those that are almost like societies, companies limited by guarantee. So, so long as you are legally registered, you're filing your returns, you're paying your taxes, what is the question?
So there's the question of the PBOA Act coming in, and who should really then regulate you going forward?
Well, under the PBOA Act, I think that the NGO Coordination Board ceases to exist. So that's why it's been a bit confusing. On what authority does this outfit purport to send letters around asking for making allegations, asking for things? That is completely out of order. They've ostensibly asked, at least, again, we have not received any letter from the NGO Coordination Board as AFRICOG. We have received nothing. We are responding to to things that we saw on social media, that we saw a letter. So, it would also be good to be advised whether if this is the mode of transmission for government to communicate with organizations by putting it on social media that we're going to do A, B, C, D. So as we stand here, we have not yet been officially given any letter that we can respond to, any document that we can respond to by a body or a department of government that is relevant to us as an organization.
So going forward then, what would you feel is your solution to sort out all that is happening?
Well, this should stop. I mean, if it's documentation with regard to our taxes, our accounts, that is, first of all, is information that is already in their possession. Whether with their digitized revenue collection system, they know what taxes we pay to who. That is information is already in their possession. Our accounts are properly filed, so again, are in their possession. But what is curious is that they were not asked for. Again, we saw a letter on social media. So this is an outrage and a waste of public resources. Ostensibly, there's a tax collection exercise going on here. It's wasting the very same taxes that are being paid.
So, thank you very much. Well, Trevor, if you could just look right next to the gate, there appears to have been some new officials who have come in, perhaps as reinforcement or something. We are yet to find out on what exactly was supposed to be happening here. We will just let you into the pictures as we find out what exactly is going on.
come and try and serve. But I mean, our problem also is, apart from the order, is also just how you come. Remember, you came to us at Kenya Human Rights Commission. Was there a problem? It is the way you came, and it's the way you come here. It's completely different.
But there are different processes, eh?
Yeah.
So can you explain what do you think is wrong? What is going on? What is AFRICOG done wrong? Can you explain, please?
We are dealing with the order.
Yeah.
You know, part of this.
Yeah. So the point is that people. So you are explaining the different processes.
Yeah,
so what's
there are
the
different processes. So we need first to see the order and see what is the problem. Then we see how it can be rectified.
Okay. Fine. Then I think the best thing is to give you Haron was around here and is our lawyer for this purpose, so he can explain to you our view of the problem with the order. Then you can go and correct it, and then and then come back and try and serve it and try and enforce it.
No problem.
Yeah.
Where is he?
Yeah. So where is Haron in all this?
Look for him,
Please.
Because what I believe, I'm an advocate from Kere, and I believe the issue as to the validity or otherwise of the court order is a matter for that court to determine.
Correct.
And I think at this point we cannot start looking at the order and saying there are challenges with the order. This is a lawful order that has been given pursuant to a process, and if there is any challenges as to the order, then that should be addressed to that court.
Yeah, but
I think for us now is just to execute the order the way it has been given.
No, you see, you can't. No,
that is the process. But we cannot start interpreting the court order now and say that it has these challenges. That is for the court that issued the order to issue. And I think that is the process. That is the procedure in law.
Does the KRA have a police unit? This is one of the complaints of the lawyers. Does the KRA actually have a police unit? Can you answer that, please?
I think let's deal with what is the problem with the order.
So you cannot confirm or deny if the KRA has a police unit?
What is your name, sir? Okay, this is and this is Dr. Karanja. Dr. Karanja is the person in charge of this operation, I believe, isn't it? So Haron Lubi is a lawyer, so he can explain our view of the problem with the order.
Yes. No, yourself, but I thought I wanted to show you the errors in your copies. Because if I show you mine, it might say it's not the one. Ask for the Chief Inspector Ombija. Press conference of election here.
This came and it wasn't expected, so we have to regroup and decide what to do about that.
Anyway, let me explain.
Sorry?
Yes. Just tell us. Okay, sorry.
I'll consult and give you an answer.
One is the application. No, I'm just talking to the officers. I'm saying we are engaging as a lawyer and the officers. The application that you filed in court yesterday has a heading saying KIA Police Unit against AFRICOG and Gladwell Otieno. It says you are investigating certain things. The affidavit signed by Chief Inspector Ombija has no heading, so we don't know what it relates to. It has no heading on it to say this is what. In any event, it doesn't mention AFRICOG and Gladwell Otieno. And I curiously noticed it is related to a police report of a crime which was made under OB number 30 of 15th August 2017, which was yesterday. The application was filed in court yesterday, but that's not the issue. That's not the reason we are rejecting it. The order, which was extracted as a result of that application, has no heading. So we don't know whether it is an order related to the application you made or it was an order related to something else. Two, it doesn't suggest that it is an order against Africog or Gladwell Otieno. Three, it is not signed by whom. The name of the magistrate who gave the order is not known in the order. But it has no heading also. It is seeking to collect the entire office of Africog or wherever else except for the building and furniture. Because it's saying collect everything without disclosing what offense they are investigating. More importantly, that application is not brought under the revenue law. It is brought under Section 75 of the Criminal Procedure Code. So we don't know what it is that your officers are here to look for, because there is no order directed against Africog. It is a piece of paper which we consider a forgery or nothing. Even if it's not forged, we consider it nothing, and it does not relate to Africog. Okay. Thank you.
I hear you. Maybe I would then want to respond to the issues you've raised. You have issues with the heading that the order does not have a heading, yes, and that it's not been signed by a magistrate.
No, it's not disclosed.
It's not disclosed who signed the order.
Yes.
I think, to me, those are grounds for challenging that order in court. Yes. But they are not grounds for stopping the officers from executing. Unless you are saying that the order is fake and that it was not issued by a judicial officer through a judicial process.
It's possible.
And we are here telling you that is a valid court order. The grounds you've raised concerning the legality of the order or otherwise, and whether there is a KRA police or not, there is a police within KRA, those are matters for the court to determine. I think for us then what we would want us to do is you allow us to comply with the order. Unless you have another order stopping the compliance with that particular order, then that we can address in court. But for now, we would want to execute that order, unless you have another order stopping us from enforcing what we already have.
What we are saying,
yes,
you have no order against Africog. That's my point. And if I show you the basis of what I'm saying, this is what you are calling the order.
Yes.
It is from, the only relevant thing is this. There is nothing, it's no respondent is here. I authorize Ombati with this warrant to access the premises situated at this,
yes,
and collect the following.
Yes.
But against whom is the order made? Who is to comply? It is in your favor. You are requiring compliance from Africog. It is not you to comply. It's
a premise has been described there as LR 209.
They're asking you, I think they should go and correct those things, the anomalies you've told them which are here. Because I think what they're doing now, I think you guys, you're acting on somebody's instructions. We do not put the blame on you. And I think it is a sad day for this country, because I think it is assured of the strengthening democratic space. What you are doing is not different from the killings in Kibera, the killings which have been there in Kisumu, and the threats on dual even to sack the Auditor General, which is a constitutional office. I think whatever you are doing is out of space, and you cannot enforce an unlawful court order. We've already pointed the discrepancies.
I think we hear you,
and
for now,
and I think what you guys are doing, I think we cannot take Kenya back to the dark ages.
I told Ombati,
I think we call off the...
Yeah, you should go and correct some of them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hey.
Well, Trevor, there you have it. The officers just saying that they have called off the operation, and of course, also according from the updates that we are receiving, is that the Cabinet Secretary for Interior also suspended the purge on on NGOs in the country, and saying that the activities that have been going on should stop until further notice. So there you have just the officers who had come here now leaving not leaving for now, just still talking with some of the NGO officials here.
That is reasonable. Thank you.
Well, the official now just leaving the premises. Relax.
So he was being interviewed on
So those are just some of the happenings here at the AFRICOG offices in Lavington, Trevor. If you just had some of the exchanges happening between the lawyers of AFRICOG as well as the officials of KRA and the police officials who had come here. Well, they were insisting on executing the order. If the civil society did not have an order stopping the exercise, then they were insisting on going ahead and doing it. But given the several issues that have been pointed out by the members of the civil society, by the section of the civil society on that search warrant, then they have decided to hold on for a while. We will still be here finding out what now will happen going forward. Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks, Andrew. That update that Andrew is talking about from Lavington, we actually have it with us here. It's a statement from the Acting Interior Cabinet Secretary, that's Fred Matiang'i. It's also on one of my panelists' Twitter handle at Mboya. Paul is the one who's just actually alerted me to it. I'll read part of it here. By copy of this letter, I direct the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government to immediately form an inclusive and representative committee to work with the NGOs Coordination Board to review the compliance status of the two organizations. In the meantime, I direct that while this is happening, you suspend any action on these organizations for up to 90 days to enable the Principal Secretary's committee work with these organizations to meet the regulatory and compliance needs of the NGOs Coordination Board to avert any distraction of the activities. Signed, Acting Interior Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Fred Matiang'i. That is coming up right. We've also been mentioned that the AFRICOG, those officials who are there, I've now suspended it for now, but we can listen into their chants. It's actually happening as we speak. All right, my guests are staying with me. We're going to wrap up this conversation in just a bit as we also await NASA's announcement later on today, but that is happening in the next hour. Let's take a short break here on Decision 2017. We're keeping an eye on everything you need to know. You know you can get it from us right here on NTV. Stay with us.
This is NTV.
Your dad died of HIV and AIDS. Mom is also positive. I remember people screaming in the car. The next thing I was in a hospital bed.
I remember going to shower